Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to the Godot Action RPG series. This will be part 7, and in this video, we're going to be learning about setting up a simple background for our game, background tiles, and a tile set as well, and how to set up auto tiling. For the background, there's actually 2 different methods that I'm going to show off here, and then I'll show you which one that I actually prefer. So first of all, remember how we made our world a Y-sort node? Well, we're not going to be able to keep that way because then everything that we put under this would be Y-sort. So let's change this. We'll change its type back to a node 2D. And then we'll add a new node as a child of our world. We'll make this a Y-sort node. And then we'll add all of our objects as children to that node. So I just selected the player, held shift, selected the brush or the bush, and then grabbed it and dropped them under our Y-sort node. And now that we've done that, our world, we can add a new sprite here. Sprite 2D. Just drag this all the way up to the top. And its texture will be inside of world and grass background.png. For the offset, let's uncheck centered. And you can see there is our sprite. However, if we drag this out, it's going to stretch it, right? And that's not what we want. So how do we make this sprite fill up the entire area right here without stretching it like that? Well, if we come into region here, we can enable region. And the first thing you'll notice is that it shrinks all the way down like this. And we also get a new tab down here called texture region. And we can come into here, click on this, and we can see, zoom in. Woo. Let's zoom in here. I use middle click to pan. You can see we've got some sort of a region here. And as we extend around this, our sprite extends here. And we can actually select this. Let's set pixel snap equal to true. We should be able to select our entire sprite quite easily that way. Okay, and this is actually 64 by 64 too, so you could set up a grid snap, set this to maybe 16 by 16, and easily select it as well, like that. Anyways, that doesn't really matter. What you can see, however, is we can extend these out farther too, but if we look up at our sprite, it kind of stretches it out weird here on the end. And so that's not really what we want. But when you set your region, so when we set these properties here in the texture region tab, what it's actually doing is setting these values over here. Once we have region enabled, these values right here are getting set. So you can see as we manipulate this, the values over here are changing. So that's essentially what you're doing. If we want this to repeat across a long distance, we can come into our texture down here and come into import, our import properties. We can check or come to the repeat flag right here and set enabled. Now, when we stretch our region out past, well, we forgot to click re-import. There we go. Then click re-import. Now when you stretch out past your actual region, you can see that the sprite is actually stretching here, and we can fill our entire room this way by stretching our region instead of our sprite. Or we can set our region manually, which in this case probably makes the most sense. You could turn on centered again, and you could stick your sprite in the middle of your room by setting its offset or its transform here. So we do, let's see, our room size was 320 divided by 2, right? That gets exactly in the center. And 180 was the height divided by 2. And you can see you can actually do the math right here in the editor, and Godot will do that math for you. So that's very convenient. And then you could set your region, right? Your where is our region? Here we go. Your width and height in your region to be 320 by 180, the exact width and height of the room, and that would properly set this up. And so that's how you can do a background that way. Background. And this is a pretty good way to do it. There's another way. So I'm going to hide this node so we can't see it anymore. We're going to create another node. This is going to be a texture rect right here. And with this node, we can stretch it to fill the whole room. And we'll drag it up here as well. Call this one texture rect background. And we'll drag our grass background texture. And you can see, even when we stretch it, it doesn't actually stretch the sprite, right? Well, if you come into your properties over here, you can see stretch mode, and we can set this to tile. And then it will just automatically stretch. So the benefit of this is you can really easily just drag it around here in the editor. The problem with this is that it's actually a control type node, and they're not really meant to be used like this. They're meant to be used for UI related elements. And so this isn't really a UI, right? This is actually in our game. And so that's kind of the problem with this, but the benefit is being able to drag it around super easily inside of our room. Now, which one's better? I don't actually really know, because I don't know how big of a drawback it is to use a control node. Obviously, the control node is more convenient, right? It's a lot more convenient to use a texture rect like this, but maybe there's drawbacks that I haven't run into with using a control node like this. So I don't know which one's better. I think for this series, I'm going to be using the first method. So we'll get rid of our control node and just make our background visible, and then manually set our rect properties over here if we need this to be bigger. And the reason I want to do that is just to kind of be safe, because I don't know if I'll run into issues with the control node, but I should be fine just using a sprite like this. So that's the plan. If you guys have any comments on this in the description, just let me know. Okay, so this already makes our game look a lot better because now we've got a nice background to go along with our character. Let's add one more little bit here. We're going to learn about tiles. So let's create a new node, attach it to our world, and this will be a tile map node. We'll drag this up. I want this to be below our background so that it draws on top of it, but above our Y sort stuff. So then we can click on our tile map and we can create a new tile map, but we're gonna want to set our cell size. So let's set this to 16 by 16. That will be the cell size. And we'll come to the tile set property here and we'll do new tile set. Now tile sets in Godot, they're relatively new, especially the auto tiling stuff, and they've changed quite a bit over the last little while. So a lot of the stuff in my Godot 3 videos is a little bit outdated because they've changed, like for the platformer series that I did a couple years ago. And tile sets, because they're relatively new, they're getting changes quickly and updates quickly. They're improving quickly, essentially. There's kind of a lot going on with them, so we'll try and take it slow. So these are the properties for your tile map. Well, if we click on the actual tile set resource right here, we're going to see some properties for that resource over here now. And we're going to get this new tile set window down here as well. And you can see there's some buttons here that we can't really interact with yet, but we're going to click this button right down here called Add Textures to Tile Set. We'll click that, we'll come into World, and we'll select our dirt tileset.png. So we'll open this, and we should zoom into this. And this tile set I made with a program called Tile Setter, and I have a video on that as well. So if you want to learn more about Tile Setter, you can go check out that video. I'll probably put it as a card in this video and maybe in the description. I think it's a powerful program to simplify making tile sets like this. So once we have our tile set here, we can actually select, we can tell what kind of a tile, once we have our tile imported essentially, we can tell it what kind of a tile set we're going to be making. And there's 3 different types up here. There's a single tile, So if you just need one tile, no, I don't use that very often. I'm not going to lie. There is an Autotile right here. This is what I use the most often. And there's a tile atlas. This is just like a list of multiple tiles. They won't auto tile, but you can, if you have some chairs and a whole bunch of different things that you want in a big list of tiles, you can create a tile atlas. We're going to do an Autotile for this. And once we click Autotile, we get this region button right here. So it wants us to select a region. And you can see we also get some snap options right here. And if we turn those on, we can actually snap. And I'm just clicking and dragging. So I clicked up here and dragged down here and selected this region. Well, this region is too big, but you have to do that before you get these new properties over here. Okay, so originally there weren't these properties over here, but the minute we created a region for this new Autotile tile set, we got these properties over here. So now we can change our snap options. We want them to be 16 by 16 as well. So then we can redraw our region. So click here, drag to here, and now our region only contains the tiles that we have right here. Once we've set up this tile set region like this, we can do Control S to save. And if we click on our tile map again, we can actually already see this tile set over here. But it doesn't really work, right? Like this isn't what we want right here. And so let's double click on our tile set again, and then click on the tile right here that we added. And we can click in here again to select the region. So it's a little bit of a weird process right there. Pay attention to that process. Click on the resource, click on the exact tile set that we're modifying, click on in here to select our region again. And if we do selected tile right here, you can see some more properties that we can expand and look into. And the first property here is the subtile size. And it's 32 by 32. Well, we want this to be 16 by 16 again. And now we can zoom in one more time. We're getting a little bit closer to what we actually need. Now for our auto tiling, we need to choose an Autotile bit mask mode. I don't understand exactly how all of these work, but for this tile set right here, we need a 3x3 minimal. Basically what it does is if we click on our bit mask right here, if we're in 2x2, you can see each tile square gives you 4 squares, right? 2x2. And there's a 3x3 minimal, which gives you 3x3. So 9 squares total, 3x3, and a 3x3 non-minimal, which also gives you 9 squares total. I don't understand the difference between these two right here, but I do know we need to use minimal for this. And once you've done that, the bit mask is where you tell Godot how to place the tiles. So let's look at this middle tile right here and talk about this one. Okay, so this middle tile, when do we want this tile to be placed? This middle tile. Well, we want this one to be placed when there are tiles all around it. Okay? When there are tiles all around it and a tile right here. That's when we want this one to be placed. That's the only time that this one should be placed, is when there's tiles all around it. So, using your bit mask right here, we're going to draw. Okay, so we've got, imagine this 3x3 grid right here. Now shrink that down so that it fits inside this little square. So this is the tile that we are talking about right here, the middle one, right? And then around it you have these tiles. So imagine these tiles are around it, right? So you're telling it, when should you place this tile? Well, when there's a tile here, and when there's a tile here, 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 and here, all around it. So that's when we want to place this tile, okay? Let's look at this top corner here. When do we want to place this tile? Well, this tile, okay, this tile should be placed when there's a tile to the right of it, when there's a tile below it, and when there's a tile right here, down and to the right, Okay, so these 3 tiles around it. So we're going to do that same thing. We're going to say, here's our tile. Well, it should be placed when there's a tile to the right of it, when there's a tile below it, and when there's a tile down and to the right of it. So that tells Godot when it should place this tile. So hopefully you're following the logic here a little bit, right? This tile right here should be placed when there's one to the left, one to the right, and then 3 under it. So here's our tile, one to the left, one to the right, and 3 under it. So that's how the bit masking works, the logic behind where we're putting these red squares. And hopefully that was enough of an explanation. For example, this tile right here, when would it be placed? Well, you want to place this tile when there's no tiles around it, right? This is a single lone tile. And so what does the bit mask look like for that? Just a single lone tile in the middle, right? And so there's a pattern with this, and you'll get kind of used to doing the pattern. I almost always mess it up still. So when I'm placing the bit mask, I almost always miss one or forget one, and you just kind of have to look over it again and try and get it right. So let's place them now all the way. We're going to place these here, and I don't have to do the exact logic anymore because I've kind of gotten a feel for what the pattern looks like, right? And if you just want to follow along with what I'm doing, you'll kind of get a feel for this pattern as well. And can I turn off? I don't know if I can turn off the grid snapping. With this tile set, it can be a little bit harder to tell where stuff is because these little brown dots are actually indicators of where these need to be placed, where these specific tiles need to be placed. So we need some here like this, oops, and like this, and like this, and like this. So you can see those little darker pixels on those, I'm not placing tiles over them. And that's because those are actually little edge, like this is where these tiles are, well, you can see what they're for, right? Like this corner tile is meant to be placed when there's a tile to the right of it and to the left of it, just like this one, but not a tile right here. No tile right here. That's where this one's meant to be placed. And you can tell that because the little darker pixel here means that's a corner. It's this little corner in here. So let's do these ones as well. Okay. And they do make some sort of a pattern. You can see this bigger, thicker piece coming down through here. These bigger, thicker ones come over through here as well. Oops. Not right there though, actually. Let's see. Like that. And you can see this section right here is like the vertical version of this section right here, down here. And then we need our weird cases. So this one's our plus case, kind of like this is, but for these. And then these come here, like that. And this is here, like that. And there, I think that's it. So you can pause your video right here and copy mine exactly if you need to. It gets, like I said, I tried to explain the logic of how it works, but it's actually generally easier just to kind of memorize this pattern and then reapply it and set up all your tile sets so they're like this. That makes it a little bit quicker when you're setting them up. So let's see if this actually worked. Now that we set up our bit masks, we should be able to come into our tile map and place it in the room and get some auto tiling. And this looks like I got it all right. This auto tile looks like it's working properly. So if yours has issues, then it means your bit mask is not set up properly. And so you'll want to go back, you'll want to pause where I said to pause and set up your bit mask to make sure that it matches exactly how mine matches. I'm going to put in some tiles here just so we've got some little paths in our room. Come this way. There we go. That's kind of an interesting little path for our game. And if we run the game, this tile set is now working properly in our game. And that looks pretty good. And you can see it's really quick. Once you get the tile set up, it's really quick to create it in the room. Now this tile right here that represents this auto tile, it's the corner, right? So you can actually set that if we click on our tile set resource again, click here again, click in here again, and then we come to this icon tab right here. We can select the icon that represents this tile set, and I usually use this one because that is a better representation of the tile set. So there we go. And these other properties right here, we're not going to worry about them right now. We'll talk a little bit more about, we'll talk about collision and occlusion in the next video. And we'll also talk maybe a little bit about priority in the next video as well and kind of what that does. But for now, we'll just leave it at this because tile sets are a little bit weird in Godot. But once you get used to them and you get, familiar with setting them up and stuff, they're really smooth, really quick, and can increase your speed while creating levels. You can create a lot more levels more quickly using auto tiles like this. And I want to put this over here and here so they go off this screen. So thank you so much for supporting this series. If you enjoy it, be sure to check out my 1-bit Godot course. This series was actually part of a Kickstarter, and so it's a huge shout out to my Kickstarter backers who made this possible. There will be a link for that course and stuff in the description. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. And I don't normally ask you guys to do this, but if you could hit that bell, you would be notified whenever I release a new video for this series. The times that I'm trying to release right now are Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So that's what I'm aiming for, 3 times a week. Maybe here and there we'll squeeze in another video, or maybe some weeks there'll only be 2 videos. I don't know. I'm going to try for Monday, Wednesday, Friday though. But if you hit the bell, you'll be notified right away when the new videos come out. So thanks again, and I will talk to you all later.